What's going on YouTube? So Mazda has been putting out some exciting new products over the past few years, and most recently the 3-row Mazda CX-90. But what if you don't need the 3rd row? Well, that's where this comes in, the 2-row Mazda CX-70. Riding on a premium architecture and equipped with lots of premium features, is this a mainstream alternative to something like the BMW X5? Let's take a first look and find out. So let's go ahead and start things off here by taking a look at the exterior design. Now, the CX-90 obviously kind of set up a new design direction for the Mazda brand, and you're going to see that design mostly carry on for this CX-70. Now, what Mazda has done, though, is kind of given this one a little bit more of a sporty flair than the 90. Now, obviously, we have a black model, but you'll notice that we have a lot of blacked out elements in the front end. So, our signature chrome that goes around the outside edges, this is going to be smoked here with the CX-70. We also have an exclusive honeycomb finish here with the gloss black for the center of the grille. That looks quite nice. And then the biggest thing that you'll probably notice, though, is this extra element down here. Again, it stands out a lot more when you look at it on the white model. But as you can see, this kind of just gives it a sportier and more aggressive look. Now, in terms of our headlights, you're going to continue to have very premium, full LED lighting, of course. You have your projector LEDs right there in the middle. You have the signature daytime running light, which is in 2 different pieces, this piece actually intersecting into the grille itself. Now, I came over here to the white version so you could get a little bit of a better look at all those contrast pieces on the front end design. As you can see, I really think it pops quite nicely overall. Now, let's kind of move over to the side here and get to our wheel option. We have a really nice looking 21-inch contrast alloy wheel on board. Like I said, these are really nice looking wheels and certainly really pop with all the rest of the black elements.
And then as far as the side design is concerned with this all-new CX-70, you're of course going to see that this is riding on the rear drive architecture of the CX-90. That's of course going to be a big deal, especially if you are considering this as a mainstream alternative to something like a BMW X5. Now, we don't have official specs and figures for this vehicle, so we don't know exactly how long it is or anything along those lines. Mazda will release those details a little bit later when this vehicle goes on sale. But I can just go ahead and comment and say here in person it does appear to be about the same length as the CX-90. Now, as far as other things that I want to point out, we do have blacked out window surrounds for the CX-70. We also do have blacked out roof rails, which gives you that nice sporty look. And I also want to point out one of those nice premium elements that Mazda is including is the body color wheel surrounds. That really gives it that nice premium look. And then coming around to the rear design, we're once again going to see that sporty premium look that we really love with all Mazda SUVs. That's going to continue here with the CX-70. One thing I do want to point out is that we do have a blacked out spoiler up top, giving it that sportier look. We have an exposed rear wiper, and then let's take a look at our taillights. Now, these taillights, if you're familiar with the CX-90, will look pretty familiar to you because these appear to be pretty much the identical taillight from the CX-90. However, we are going to have a lot of nice LED elements inside, so I'm not disappointed by that at all. We even have the nice turn signal that fades in and out, and we're also going to have an LED reverse light. Now, as we drop down to the lower area, once again, we are going to see a little bit of a sportier look compared to something like the CX-90. We now have these little elements on the side, giving it that nice sport design. However, I will point out that you're not going to have exposed exhaust outlets. This, of course, is the plug-in hybrid variant, but that's not going to be on any CX-70 when it comes to the exterior design. Now, we don't have official towing figures just yet, but if it's anything like the CX-90, you could expect around a 5,000-pound tow rating for this new CX-70. Now, as far as safety systems are concerned, once again, no official details just yet, but Mazda's almost always include all 4 of your active safety features as standard equipment, so we would expect that to continue for this CX-70 as well. But there's a lot of really cool things that we can't wait to show you on the inside, so let's go ahead and dive into that. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, now let's go ahead and check out the interior. Of course, as always, I want to show you guys what the key fob looks like. This is your typical Mazda key fob. You do have the intelligent entry system on board, of course. And to get inside, you'll just reach behind the handle and that will unlock the door. All right, now take a look inside the interior. As you can tell right from the start, it really is a premium environment, and I'm not surprised by that because the CX-90 had a very upscale cabin. But there are some unique things about this CX-70. One of the big things you're probably noticing right now, red interior. This is an exclusive thing for the CX-70. This is your available Napa leather with the red finish. I love the way this looks. This is really cool, combined with the black accents inside of the cabin. Just gives you a sporty flair that's not present in the CX-90. Now, in terms of your seats, you're going to have a lot of adjustments. Looks like we have two-way lumbar support on today's model and about 10 ways of adjustment. And of course, you're also going to have memory seats as well, located right there. But let's go ahead, climb inside, and get into some of the specific details. And now that we're fully inside here, let's go through some of the other cabin materials. I want to start off with our door trim, of course. Again, we have a lot of premium materials running through here, so we have a very nicely padded armrest. We have leather through here with the stitching detail. The center section is going to be matching the red of the seats. I like that a lot. And then we have the soft touch plastic along the top. I also want to point out that we have a special finish for the CX-70. It's like a darkened kind of aluminum look to this trim. I like that a lot. And as we go to the upper dash, soft touch plastic, of course. The center section, again, we're going to see the red leather repeated with the stitching detail and more of that unique trim running across the center console. You also have leather along the side for your knee to rest against. Now, obviously, we're inside, so we're not going to fully fire up the vehicle, but we do have the electronics turned on. And first of all, let's look at the gauge cluster. So, we don't know specific details about which versions are going to get which types of equipment yet. Of course, this is a very early first look, and we look forward to giving you guys complete information as soon as possible. As you can tell, this is a partially digital gauge cluster, but just like the CX-90, we do know that the full digital 12.3-inch gauge cluster will be offered on some of the versions as well. As we pull back, you're going to see rain-sensing wipers. Every Mazda continues to have standard rain-sensing wipers, no matter which trim you choose. And we have a very nice-looking steering wheel. Of course, fully leather-wrapped, you have the color contrast stitching. It has kind of a thick rim. And if it holds true, just like all the other Mazdas, it's going to be a joy to drive, which is an important thing to remember when you're choosing a Mazda. Now, as far as the wheel itself, we have manual tilt and telescoping on this example we're showing you today. Heating is also available. Now, let's get into interior storage. Even though we have two rows, you still want to have plenty of storage, and thankfully, we have, the same kind of storage solutions as the CX-90. Obviously, the center console, we've talked about this in the past, is not super deep, but it does have a nice felt lining. This is where you'll find your two USB ports. You also have storage up here, so you've got your two cup holders, and then you've got a nice pad for you to wirelessly charge your devices. In terms of our shifter, this is an electronic style shifter. You're just going to pull back for drive, up for reverse, of course. When you do that, you have the availability of a 360-degree camera system. You also have your drive mode, or not drive mode controller, your infotainment controller located right here. Electronic parking brake, and then you have your volume knob. Again, there's going to be a couple different audio systems offered. Upper level trim levels will get a Bose sound system. Now, in terms of our center section here, we have a very clean look, of course, and we have a dual zone automatic climate control system, so you can make your adjustments right there. Or actually, excuse me, it says 3-zone automatic climate control system, so you do have adjustments in the back, which is certainly nice to see. I'm also noticing that we have 3-stage heated seats, 3-stage ventilated seats, and then that is our heated steering wheel control. Now, let's talk about the display, because I do have something to talk about here. So your upper level trim levels are going to come with the 12.3-inch display. That's what you're looking at right now. But what's new about the CX-70 is that this is the first Mazda with Alexa built into it.
I'm having trouble connecting. Check your network connection and try again.
And as you can see, it did respond to that when I just mentioned it. So indeed, it is built into the system. That's just going to allow you to do more things inside of the infotainment system hands-free. Now, of course, this is going to have all the features that you expect, like built-in navigation offered on many of the trim levels. We also have wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. Up top, you're going to notice a nice frameless auto-dimming mirror. We have our 3 HomeLink universal remotes. And then just like with the Big Brother CX-90, we're going to have a nice-sized panoramic sunroof.
All right, now let's go ahead and check out the rear seat area of this all-new Mazda CX-70. Now, as far as this area is concerned, we don't have, once again, any official specs and figures. That will come later when this vehicle is supposed to go on sale. However, we have been in the CX-90. A lot of times, that's where the car reviewing expertise comes into play, and I think this feels exactly the same as the CX-90 in terms of space. And as far as that is concerned, it's going to be sitting around 39.5 inches of legroom, which is a good amount of space. I'm 5'9" for reference. As you can see, the seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8", and we want to get that knee room figure for you. We have about 8 inches of knee space with the seat adjusters 5'9" and 5'8" respectively. Now, my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat, and I do want to point out that these seats do slide forward and back. So you have that functionality, even despite it not being a 3-row SUV, you do still have the functionality to slide the seats forward and back. Now, I do want to talk about this. We do have bench seating. I do not believe captain's chairs will be offered on the CX-70, so this is going to be your 5-seat configuration. And then as far as here in the center, we do have rear vents, that nice chrome trim around it, 2 USB ports. We also have heated rear seats and our own climate control. So very nice premium features back here in the CX-70. Now, if we fold down the center armrest, we do have 2 cup holders inside. And then turning to the door trim, let's go ahead and talk about this. We have a nearly 90-degree opening door trim. So this is a really practical feature that I'm sure a lot of you guys will appreciate. If you happen to have families that you need to bring along, it's going to make loading in a car seat super easy. Now, as far as the door trim itself is concerned, we do have nice features. We have a rear window sunshade up top. We also have more of that nice unique trim, red leather through the center, and we also have quite a bit of bottle storage down the very bottom. Now let's go ahead and check out the cargo area for this all-new CX-70. Now, of course, we do have a power tailgate offered, and then as far as this area is concerned, once again, no official specs just yet. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I do want to remind you of that. However, since we do think this is very similar size to the CX-90, I will just go ahead and quote that maximum cargo capacity for you as a good reference point. That's going to be sitting around 75 cubic feet with all the seats folded down. I would expect a very similar number for the CX-70. Minus a little bit of space, I would say maybe like 70 cubic feet as an overall maximum. Now, just taking a look back here, though, wow, it is a lot of space behind the second row seats. There is a ton of length behind the second row, and Mazda does include these nice buttons on the left side to power or electronically fold the second row down. So as you can see, it does fold 60-40 split, and then once you fold that down, you have a pretty massive amount of cargo length. But we're not just going to, talk about how massive the amount of space is. Here at Car Confections, we want to get all those measures for you. So behind the driver's seat to the rear of the cargo area, we are sitting at an overall length of 85 inches. That's very long. And then behind the second row seats to the rear of the cargo area, nearly 50 inches long. So very impressive. As far as the overall cargo opening, we are sitting at around 41 inches wide. Now, not done yet because there is additional things for the CX-70. If you lift up the cargo floor, you have a little bit of space up here, but if we lift it up more, there is a lot more space up underneath of this area. That's because, well, of course, the CX-90 has a third row that kind of takes up that space. So now that frees Mazda up in the CX-70 to give you a little bit more underfloor cargo capacity.
But now let's talk about what you'll find under the hood. This is perhaps the element that really resembles luxury vehicles the most, like the BMW X5, because you have an inline 6-cylinder. That's a very premium type of engine to find in a vehicle like this. So you have the 3.3-liter Sky Active inline 6-cylinder. It is turbocharged, and it also has a 48-volt mild hybrid system. If it's like the CX-90, it'll be offered in two different power outputs, which would be 280 horsepower on the lower end and 340 horsepower on the upper end too. This will also be paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. And like Mason was mentioning earlier, this does ride on a new rear-wheel drive-based architecture. Like other Mazda SUVs, this should have standard all-wheel drive across all trim levels. But the rear drive architecture, of course, is beneficial in your driving dynamics, like the BMW X5. Of course, we don't have official fuel economy, but if it's the same as the CX-90, it'll be 24 city, 28 highway, 25 combined, which is very impressive for a vehicle of this size. But if you're even more concerned about fuel economy and efficiency, let's go over there and check out the plug-in hybrid variant. That's right, this will be offered in both the traditional Sky Active gas powertrain and also your plug-in hybrid variant. So the plug-in hybrid is going to be composed of a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, and it's also going to be paired, of course, to a 17.8 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. That is going to give you about 323 horsepower on board and 369 pound-feet of torque. Now, Mason and I did extensively test out a CX-90 with this plug-in hybrid powertrain, and we were quite impressed by the overall experience of this.
And lastly here, I do want to talk about pricing and availability. Now, as far as pricing is concerned, Mazda has not quite released those details yet. However, here at Car Confections, we're going to estimate for our audience here and use our professional opinions to kind of derive a little bit of a figure that might be useful for you if you're looking to buy the CX-70. Now, we think it'll start a little bit less than a CX-90, as you would expect, because this is a little bit of a smaller vehicle. So we're going to estimate a starting price of around $38,000, and it goes up to around $55,000. Now, of course, that's not official pricing from Mazda yet, and I think it will vary a lot depending on what powertrain choices you choose and what trim levels are available, so do keep that in mind. Now, as far as availability and when you're going to be able to buy this CX-70, Mazda has not released those details just yet, but given that we are filming this studio shoot in January of 2024, we do estimate that this vehicle will probably be on sale around fall time. And guys, that's going to be it for our in-depth studio first look of the all-new 2025 Mazda CX-70. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you help get us invited to events like this where we can show you some of the newest cars on the market before they're even unveiled. So thank you so much for your continued support and consideration in subscribing. If you're already a fan and subscriber, thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.